everybody in. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Okay.
Hi, this is Mike on the phone. Thanks for the info, Petra.
Yeah, sorry. Apologies to everyone that the reminder didn't go out yesterday. That was entirely our fault. Apparently, we didn't press the very last button that said send. So thank you guys for being persistent and being here. We appreciate it.
So you're saying there never was a send out for the Zoom info?
Right. You did. You didn't miss it. We missed it.
No, I thought I might have inadvertently deleted it or something.
Nope, it was us. So good to see everybody. And before we start, I just want to give you guys a hint because somebody did this for me and I really appreciated it. If you guys are tired of being on Zoom, one thing that makes you a little less tired is not to have to look at yourself. So you can hide self view. There's 3 little dots in the corner and you can just press it and it says hide self view and then you don't have to look at yourself anymore. It's just a fun little trick. I would love it if you guys start introducing yourselves on chat. We'll get a chance for everyone to share soon, but while we're waiting, put your name, your organization, and what you're excited about the recall election. Looks like Sarah's in the office today.
Okay, were you asking me to be the one to start this? I had just run up to this.
Nope.
Good.
I didn't. All I said was it looks like you're in the office, but we will, let's go ahead. Actually, Sarah, why don't you just introduce yourself and then we'll go around the room. And
okay, I'll sneak a peek.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sarah O'Brien, and I'm an election specialist and do a lot of the work with outreach. And why am I excited about the, is that part of this introduction?
Yes.
I'm excited because we haven't had a recall since 2000, whoops, for many years. Yes, I just stopped myself.
Diane, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Diane Lees. I'm with San Francisco Peninsula People Power and co-chair of the VEOAC. And what I'm excited about is, I'm not really excited. I think this is, anyway, I'll move on.
I am Petra Sultan. I am co-chair of the VEOAC with Diane, and I'm the Director of Advocacy and Education with Thrive, the Alliance of Nonprofits for San Mateo County. And the reason we made Sarah stop talking is because we have a trivia game for later, because we know that you guys all love election trivia. So what I'm excited about for the recall election is that there's lots of great trivia. I'm also excited. I'm not excited about it. I think it's stupid. But the reality is it gives us just one little more opportunity to remind people to vote and to get people interested in the process and to do some more outreach. So I think we can take that part as a positive. So I wanted to go over a couple of Thrive things that I think you guys might be interested in. On July 28th, we're hosting the new director of what's her name? I think it's a director of equity for the county for Leadership Circle Luncheon. It's only for executive directors and CEOs of nonprofits, but the idea is to really get the dialogue between the county and the nonprofits going around equity, diversity, and inclusion. So Kirsten helpfully put the sign up in the chat. Also, I wanted to let you know that our next redistricting event is going to be a very kind of hands-on how to learn how to use the mapping tools. how to do advocacy and more. And hopefully we can have people who are doing advocacy in their specific communities talk about what kind of issues there are around boundary drawing right now. And so that'll be on September 2nd. And we have the Julia Marks from Asian Americans Advancing Justice, who's going to lead that, but hopefully it'll be very much an interactive session. And with that, today's agenda is welcome, introductions via chat. Then it looks like we have a special guest here, Jim Irizarry. We'll give him an opportunity to share what he would like to share and talking about the elections, the recall election and the mechanics. I'm sure he has lots to share, and maybe something about the budget, I don't know. And then after that, we'd really like to share kind of what people's outreach plans are, and whatever available funding there is. And then Diane will do her legislative update, and then we'll talk about National Voter Registration Day, because although the elections on September 14th, National Voter Registration Day is on September 28th, right afterwards. So can do as much planning as possible. And our next meeting will be on August 11th, and I'm sure that one's going to focus entirely on the recall, because we will be very close to it then. So with that, I think I'll hand it over to Jim.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Is there a conflict on the 18th? What you mentioned, the 11th is the second.
Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you for pointing that out. So usually we do it on the 18th, but we decided that because two reasons. One, because the recall election is coming up so soon that we'd be better off meeting in 3 weeks instead of 4 weeks just for this one time.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure that.
Yes, it is 1 week earlier than it usually is.
All right, thank you. So,
and we are going to surprise you guys with the trivia game sometime in the middle of this meeting. So, and with the trivia game, we're going to do exactly like we do in my family, which is that it is entirely whoever wins gets nothing but glory, no prizes. Okay, Jim.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Petra. It's great being here and seeing all of you today. I wanted to take a moment of the committee's time this morning to just briefly go through the gubernatorial recall election. Candidate filing ended on Friday. Final list of candidates is supposed to be released today by the Secretary of State's office. This is a culmination also of SB 152, which really established pretty much the same ground rules as were established for the presidential 2020 election in the middle of the COVID environment. It affects primarily a lot of the counties that are still in polling place election environments, and also affects the VCA a little bit. But since we have a pretty strong election model in place in the San Mateo County, we were the first in 2015, moving into the election under the requirements of SB 152 are fairly straightforward for San Mateo County. Not so for other counties that are you'll see there's a lot going on with counties that are dealing with precincts and polling place elections, because a lot of the regulations require them to be somewhat like a VCA county, and they have to send out a vote by mail ballot to every one of their registered voters, which they don't customarily do not do in a regular election. And they also have to have all of their polling places open and have drop box locations and things that generally they are not accustomed to under the elections code when they conduct a regular election. But SB 152 kind of changes that for every county in the state of California, unless you're a VCA county, and the changes are relatively minor and they're relatively positive. As we experienced in the November 2020 presidential general election, we were in a COVID environment. So the public health and safety is of paramount importance. And we have a lot of experience in preparing our vote centers to be COVID compliant and also to create a very safe and healthy environment, both for the poll workers and for the public that is going to visit. So you'll hear more about that, but we definitely want everyone to know that vote centers are there to help you, to help people who have questions. And invariably in an election, whether you're a vote by mail county like we are, under the Voters' Choice Act, people need voting services and people do need to go to vote centers. And we want to make sure that we communicate to them that the vote centers, as they were in 2020, are very safe and secure from a COVID perspective. The law provides a lot of options, as you know, the Voters' Choice Act. That is the key of the Voters' Choice Act, is options to cast your ballot. So San Mateo County voters are very fortunate to have the options that we're accustomed to. And that is, of course, to vote by mail, to use a vote center, to use ballot drop-offs, and also remote accessible vote by mail, which is now available to the whole public, where normally it's for visually impaired folks and those who have disabilities and requested. But now in the COVID environment, the RAVBM is open to everyone. We did send out a postcard, and thank you, Petra and Diana, for reviewing that briefly. Sorry, we didn't have that much time on Friday, but we did send it out, and it went out yesterday. And I know that you know I'm very verbose, or here at elections we are very wordy, and so we got your message. And that the challenge that we have, and you guys are such clear, concise writers. It's hard to compete against you, to simplify things. But our challenge is to try and get a lot of information out, at least to post people that the election is coming. And I just have a rough time just making it into a few words. We have a rough time because that product is really the product of our elections staff. But we did get it together. It was mailed out yesterday. So I think we're probably one of the first counties in the state to get out a postcard like that to our registered voters. And again, it's one of those, values that we have to keep the voting public informed as to what's going on. We're a month away, from the sample ballot and the vote and the official ballot being mailed, which will be on August 14th, I believe. So we wanted to get it out to let people know it's coming. There will be future communications, and I promise you, it will be fewer words, Petra and Diane. We'll turn it over to you to give a lot more input on that one. So that's coming on down the line, because there are 2 statutory postcards that need to be sent out, and we will be sending out another one. This year, the official ballot will also contain the sample ballot and voter information pamphlet. We will have it wrapped around the ballot to simplify the mailing, to get it out, and to provide relatively basic information regarding the election that in most part is being put together by the Secretary of State, because it is a statewide election. Of course, near and dear to our hearts is voter education and outreach, which is a critical component of elections here in San Mateo County, and you folks are definitely at the forefront of that. Mr. Church was successful in obtaining $200,000 in our budget for voter education and outreach. We are seeing if we can pull an additional $100,000 out of our year-end fund balance from other program areas to allocate for voter education and outreach for this election. And we do have a budget that we've put together, we've pieced together, which is basically our traditional media. A big part of that money goes to the statutory postcard mailings. We have approximately 440,000 registered voters in San Mateo County, and we have to send postcards out to all of them. We have to have two contacts, and those postcards run like about $75,000 each or more. So you can see, we got 150,000 almost. If we were just to use a $200,000 budget, is completely spent on that. So we thought it would be important to squeak out a little bit more money, and also to use a model that we've used in the last election and that was successful. And that's working with community-based organizations, which you folks have taken a lead on with the Silicon Valley Foundation, to use trusted messengers to get the word out in materials and information on the election. And we're looking at, allocating a portion of those funds in the neighborhood of around $60,000 or so. And then the remaining balance will go to traditional media. We have posters we're going to be, and brochures and items we have to print out of that. But traditional multilingual media, both social and paper and airwaves, will also be funded out of that money. So we will be reviewing that with you. Again, time is of the essence here. It is incredible what we're going to have to do over the next 60 days or so. The time periods for the recall election, the original statutory time periods give us 100 days plus 120 days, but it has been reduced to about 60 days to what we have to do to get this election going. It's really challenging for registrar voters. The beauty here in San Mateo County is that we have an established network and infrastructure, and we are a VCA county, and we have the best election staff on the planet. And we've been brought back, because we were working remotely under COVID, and now we have a phased redeployment of staff. Election staff is now back in full swing, and as is so most of the department, with just a couple of exceptions. So we have all hands on deck, and we're moving forward towards the recall. And I'll leave it at that and answer any questions that you might have. Yes, we do.
I have a question.
Thank you, Pam. Yes, sir.
On the recall ballot, maybe you already covered this, but actually before the recall ballot goes out, what kind of education are you providing about the recall ballot itself? In other words, my understanding is there's two questions on the recall ballot. It's one, should the governor be recalled? And two, if so, here's a list of people that you can choose. So I guess point one is, or question, my first part of the question is simply, is that pretty clear to everybody? And point two, is it clear that if there's a majority that say they don't want to recall a governor, then the second question sort of becomes moot?
To answer your first question, I don't think it's clear to everybody at this stage of the game. And that's very important information. Keep in mind that the information that we be provided to voters through the sample ballot and voter information pamphlet is also the primary responsibility of the state of California, the SOS. And so they will be putting in their pamphlets and information, all of the information that you just referenced. We too, and that was part of the postcard that we sent out, is for people to go to a website link and to attain additional information on the recall election. So this is the first start of a process to educate the public, of which the VEOAC, this committee, and all our other statutory committees, the Voter Accessibility Advisory Committee, VEOAC, and our LAC, are charged with, is to help get the word out. And so the $300,000 that I just mentioned that we've allocated is specifically for voter information, voter education, and outreach. You will see that information in our sample ballot voter information pamphlet when it is mailed out on the 14th. That will be very clear in terms of what the ground rules are for this election. But the footwork that goes before then with this committee, with trusted messengers and community-based organizations, is really when I think that word gets down to the voting public a little bit more effectively than it is right now.
Well, having just said that, having you just said that, what kind of materials might we expect from the county level that we can use as tools when we send trusted messengers out?
Traditionally, in our past elections, the network, the business model that we have with the VEOAC is our office will, under the guidance, under the advice of the VEOAC and our advisory committees, will produce pamphlets, brochures, letters, announcements that can actually be handed out to community-based organizations that can be delivered to our residents. And also there'll be presentations, there'll be information that people will be able to access. And our website is a very valuable tool that people can also use to understand more of the specifics of the recall election. But we're excited here at Elections that we have such a great network of individuals such as, you know, the VEOAC members of the VEOAC and the LAC in the back that help us get that word out. But we basically are a resource, and we provide some funds, we provide some, we have a graphics department, so we can provide brochures and something similar to this, bookmarks, whole bunch of neat little items that can get out into people's hands to remind them about the election and inform them about the election.
So yeah, I appreciate everything you said. I guess part of my question really goes to the fact that we know in San Mateo County, like so many other counties probably as well, there are gaps in electronic media, if you will, social media, if you will, that some people don't have access to due to Wi-Fi issues or lack of hardware, what have you. So I want to just sort of call attention to that, as that's another target area that we need to be sure that we have the tools to reach those folk.
Thank you. Good point. And that's why we work with our community-based organizations. We targeted certain communities that traditionally do not participate at the level that we would like to see in an election. And those communities are getting additional targeted resources for that. But we will also use social media, and we use traditional media. Sarah here, who's led our voter education and outreach campaign as it relates to funding these activities. I don't know if you want to add anything else, Sarah, that I might have just kind of glossed over or missed.
You did a great job explaining. I would just add it in the chat that we have some resources already out with social media write-ups, explanation about the ballot from the Secretary of State. And if you don't have that link, it's in your email from Thrive with the link to today's meeting, and I can send it here too in the chat. We'll be having our materials available soon. I know not all of you, but many of you are familiar with the general look and feel of our materials. And I can probably find something that we already have ready, like the postcard that we did that's been in the mail. I can put a link in the chat so everyone can see it.
I have a follow-up. This is Mike on the phone.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, we actually had our VAC meeting last week, and this general topic came up, but the materials weren't yet prepared, and I'm guessing they still aren't. But our concern was that it just be on the ballot prominently, that no matter what you do on question 1, you have the right to choose a replacement or whatever that status of that person is going to be called in question 2. So they don't have to go to any other source. It's just right at the top of the ballot or right between question 1 and question 2 or wherever it's more visible.
And that's all done by the state, so we don't have any control over that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that ballot is developed by the state right now. And the challenge that we have really is that the list hasn't even been provided of the actual candidates by the Secretary of State as of today, right? So we're really, very, very, very tight timeline. But I think the most important aspect of voter education and outreach is to let folks know that there is an election, that there are resources available to them, that they can ask questions, and that they can receive voter services, voter registration, conditional voter registration, online information, multilingual information. The real area in terms of voter education and outreach is letting people know that there is an election and letting people know that there are resources available to answer their questions. The actual sample ballot and the ground rules, as you just mentioned, are in the sample ballot itself, and are statutory requirements that are, I think, pretty straightforward. But it's everything else before then that people will just have questions on, that we serve that role to help and answer those questions.
Marnie, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Marnie Rubin with the League of Women Voters, South San Mateo County. I wanted to throw out that we have a template that we're happy to offer. We decided, because there's so much information, that instead of sending out postcards like we've done in the past, that we were going to put together a flyer. It's actually an 8.5 by 11. It's double-sided, so it's got tons of information on there. But we did put in addition to all the things that, you know, Jim and everyone else has mentioned, we wanted to, and we'll send this to the elections office to make sure that it's all okay before we print and everything. But it does have no vote means and a yes vote means. So it's great graphics from our communications department, but it is on there, you know, not only that we're having an election, what a recall election is, but what a no vote and yes vote means. And then on the flip side, you know, all the information about drop boxes and vote centers and all that. So again, we're happy to share that with anyone who needs it. I wanted to say thanks to Debbie Mayo, who is on this call, our communications expert. She's amazing. So maybe she can offer additional, you know, comments on that if needed. But thanks. That's all for now on that.
If I may quickly interject too, the other big area is, of course, COVID-19. We are in the middle of, you know, the pandemic. I know that, you know, this ebbs and flows with respect to masks and vaccines, etc. But it is important for the public to know that they have options, that they can vote by mail, that they can drop off their ballot, that they don't necessarily have to go to a vote center to vote. And they could use remote accessible vote by mail. I think the COVID-19 environment can create a barrier for people to feel comfortable to go to a vote, feel uncomfortable to vote, go to a vote center to receive services. I think part of the educational process here is to let people know that vote centers are safe. I mean, people will be wearing masks. You know, the facilities are getting sanitized. We practice social distancing. And, you know, if you need to go, you should feel comfortable, but you don't have to because of the other options that are there. We will have curbside ballot drop off. We've got our ballot drop boxes throughout the county. So the COVID-19 can have a damper on an election, especially depending on where the variant may be in, you know, in another month or so. So let's keep that in the back of our mind, that in San Mateo County, because of the options that are available there, but in particular vote centers, they have been prepared to handle the public and to be extremely safe with respect to COVID-19 safety practices.
And we'll share, Marnie jumped the gun a little bit because we are going to all share it's perfect. The conversation about what kind of outreach we're doing. We have a bunch of things planned as well, and we'd love to share that. But Jim, before that, I'm going to just take advantage of the fact that you're here and ask a not recall election question. I've been talking a lot about redistricting, but there's also a lot of districting happening. So there are a bunch of jurisdictions, I think I'm counting up to 5 so far, that are going to by-district elections that have not had by-district elections. And all of that needs to happen on a ridiculously short time schedule because the census data isn't even coming out until September 23rd. How are you guys doing?
We're doing very well under the circumstances, but we are under the gun. One of the assets that we have here in San Mateo County that other counties do not have in the state is a very highly technical, sophisticated geographical information system, which our department 2.5 years ago was able to get $2.2 million from the Board of Supervisors. They were very supportive on this. And we rebuilt our assessor's parcel layer. And that is the foundation of the GIS system. And the tools and the technology that's available there that simplifies the actual mapping, because it's 3 layers. We have our, our TRA, which is our tax rate area layer, our precinct layer, and our jurisdiction layer, which is the TRA. And of course, all of the other information that goes with our election management system all gets melded into the development of the new maps. Keep in mind, whether it's districting or redistricting, the jurisdictions are responsible for the creation and the maintenance of their maps. They use our data, but fortunately our data now with the GIS system that we have in play is it's really efficient to use. So they're finding it a little bit easier to put that information together. But nonetheless, it still has to come to election staff. And then we have our GIS unit, which is outside of elections, working cooperatively with elections. And then we have our mapping specialist at Tower Road. We bring together a team to make that happen. And they are working feverishly right now to make all of those preparations and get ready, because we are under a very tight timeline as a result of the delay of the census information. But we're going to make it.
Thank you for indulging me on that question. Just as I see the newspaper almost every day that some new jurisdiction is going to go to by-district elections, I'm like, oh, that's just more work. But it's an exciting opportunity for democracy too. So
it is. And the other day we had the pleasure of having Senator Josh Becker visit elections. One of the areas that he wanted to see was how we do that. How do we map? How do we do redistricting? And we had our staff there working on that. And again, keep in mind, our elections office is your elections office. It's not ours. We're just simply custodians. We have an observer program. If you want to see how the process works, I think it's just a fantastic process that we have, but it's incredibly educational for those of you, like, for example, Petra, if you're interested, to actually see how we do it and to look over, the shoulder of one of our specialists, so you can see the challenge that we have of overlaying all of these different district boundaries and making sure that they have the right number of precincts in those new district boundaries. It's fascinating what they do. It's highly technical, and then you walk away with a greater appreciation of what our election professionals really do behind the scenes. So it's an open invitation to all. Just let us know and we'll set up a time that you can kind of look at that.
I'm sensing a VEOAC field trip.
There you go.
Maybe after the recall. I think we have a lot to do between now and then. Sarah, you're putting all kinds of information in the chat, but I actually want you to talk about all of the different kinds of materials that you're putting together so that we all know and how we should get it and all of that. So do you want to just take it?
Sure. Right now, we're preparing our bookmarks that are in English on one side, Spanish on the other, English and Chinese on the other side for the bookmarks. Already, we're in touch with South San Francisco and Redwood City libraries, as well as the county library system, which includes 12 libraries, to have these distributed in the libraries, as well as in their curbside pickup. We have quarter sheets that in the past, they've gone in places such as the Second Harvest Food Bank boxes and bags of groceries, as well as markets such as Chavez supermarkets. So we're preparing the quarter sheets that, again, on one side, one language, the other side, we have another language. And though most are Spanish and Chinese, some materials will be available in other languages, already preparing Tongan, Burmese, Japanese. We'll be soon having some information in Hindi, and of course Tagalog. So if you need information that's in another language, either that I've mentioned or not, please let us know. You can contact me via phone or email at the elections office. I can put my contact info in the chat to make it easy, but basically S.O'Brien at smcacre.org. Let's see, other materials we usually have. We're working on an ad card that we post inside the Samtrans buses, and that's in all 3 languages at one time. Let's see, what else do we have, Michael, that I'm not thinking of right now? A lot of ads that we'll be placing in the media. And again, if you can use those in some sort of online newsletters that your groups do, we'd be happy to provide you with the artwork.
Online ads, considering some billboards. I'm not sure I mentioned that. Van magnets. Yeah, we're trying to cover all bases, but we're open to suggestions. Of course, considering the budget, if you really think we should be targeting a certain community in a particular way, please bring that up. We're here to consider it and do what we can.
So Petra, we're saying back to you if you're there, or Diane.
Yeah, so I'm filling in. So any other organizations? So Marnie, I don't know if you have anything additional that you want to talk about regarding voter outreach for the recall. Or have you pretty much covered everything?
Yeah, I'll just talk really briefly. It's such a short timeline, and since it's summer, the volunteer capacity is not so great. But we've committed to try to do a modified version of the multi-pronged approach that we worked on for the general election last year, but definitely modified. So we're focusing on this this flyer. So, and again, we weren't sure how much money would be available, how much funding. So we're just basically doing a small amount, and but it is focused on this flyer, which we feel like will be very packed full of information. We'll be doing with the flyer, we'll be distributing to a lot of the places Sarah mentioned and others have mentioned, the markets. We'll be doing tabling, and we're focusing on all 6 of our cities this time, as opposed to kind of a smaller group. So all 6 of our cities, from Redwood City down to East Palo Alto. We'll be doing a Google Ads program, which we found was really effective last time. And we've got some community organizers to help us. Lastly, our website, updating our website with all this information, and our social media, our Facebook sites and stuff. So we've got that plan. We're hoping to be able to implement it with a kind of skeleton staff. And happy to talk with anybody about what they're doing too and coordinate. Thanks.
So Marnie, are there any particular events that you're going to be tabling at, or is it just mostly locations?
It's mostly locations. We wanted to do a huge push for NVRD, but which we still may be able to do, but I don't know. So we'll focus probably on libraries, Chavez Market, and some of the markets in Belhaven, either the senior center, the community centers, but we're not, and probably maybe like St. Anthony's and some of the not-for-profit organizations, but we can only do probably 6 at the most. So,
okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
So anybody else, anybody's organization have plans specific to the recall that want to talk about it?
Well, here at elections, we just wanted to mention that some of those real quick specifics of there will be 20 vote centers throughout the county. First one's open for 29 days. Then we have, so that's 3 of them. Then we have 11 total. Wait, 8 total for 11 days. And then we'll have 20 that will be open for 4 days. And we'll have 2 that open on the coast side in Pescadero and La Honda for 2 days. We have 41 drop boxes. Several now are drive up accessible, and more than ever, we have outside drop boxes open 24/7 to make it more convenient. Let's see, those are sort of the big numbers, big statistics. You can find all sorts of information at smcvote.org.
Okay, so any other organizations have plans specific for the recall?
This is Mike. I wouldn't call it a plan like the vote centers have, but just Sarah brought up the fact that the materials or some materials are going to be distributed on Samtrans buses. Are those like postcards or some different type of handout? What are those going to be?
Sure, Mike, those are, they call them ad cards, and they are approximately 28 inches long by 11 inches high. And they're placed in sort of into permanent display frames that are on the buses that, usually display ads, but they also do some public service like this. And they'll go up as early as a month ahead of the election, and perhaps earlier, depending on, as soon as we can get them there. They do take a little bit to print and cut on the heavier stock by our printer, but no later than a month before the election, and preferably sooner. They'll be available on the buses. It's not a handout, though.
Yeah, that's what I was curious. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'll ask again, are there any other organizations that have plans specific to the recall in terms of voter outreach?
I do.
Petra, why don't you tell us what your plans are?
So I'm going to get with Marnie and talk, but we wanted to make an easy one pager, but if they already have, our idea was to make one where people can put their own logos on it. But we'll collaborate on that for sure. The other thing that Drive wanted to do, because this is, although to us it's not that difficult, it's still kind of confusing to people. So what we thought we would do is some 15-minute trainings for outreach people, so that, or for anybody really, that would just explain everything super quick so nobody feels like they have to go to another meeting. But I think the kind of personal touch will be really helpful. And so we will send that out to all of our nonprofit partners, even the ones who aren't necessarily involved in civic participation, so that people can figure it out. Because again, I keep hearing people not understanding. I actually have a scenario. I want to know if the scenario is possible. Let's say the governor gets recalled, but there are a large number of people on the ballot, and the person who gets the most gets 15% of the vote. That person would become governor. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yes.
That is correct. Yes.
I think this is just fascinating. Okay, so that's what we're planning on doing, and we're hoping to get out and really just kind of get the word out. And like I said before, just use this as an excuse to get people involved in the democratic process, so that the next time we have an election, they're already registered or already whatever. So
Petra, on that
Yes.
15-minute training you're talking about,
Mhm.
how is that accessible for people? How do people access the training?
So I believe, Bill, you are on my mailing list because you're here. So I will be sending it out to, we'll have it on our Thrive website, and we will also send it out to everybody on the Thrive mailing list. So
Okay, so it's online.
It will be online, and what I would love from everybody in this room is for you guys to send it out to your people as well, so that we get as many people as possible. Again, I'm going to keep it absolutely to 15 minutes because I think we're all over meetinged, but I also think people will appreciate the opportunity to ask questions. So, and we'll invite Sarah or Michael to those so that they can answer the questions.
So actually, isn't there also a one-page description of the recall election? Now, there's one that's coming out from the Secretary of State, but Sarah, weren't you also working? I can't remember now whether you were just working off of the same material from the Secretary of State or trying to condense it into something more brief.
Well, you and Petra and I had talked about sort of the frequently asked questions, and that was the sheet that's going into the sample ballot from here, and wondered if that piece of paper would be helpful to people as a handout. You know, we could make, you know, a little bit of adjustment. Obviously, we'd put our branding at the top and the bottom so people know how to contact us, since it would be a standalone page. But I didn't quite get the feedback from you two if you think that FAQ was helpful or not really.
Sarah, I'd love for everybody to have an opinion on that. Do you want to can you put it in do you have an easy link in the chat so people can look at it now?
Yep, I can do that.
Or even if people can just do like a thumbs up if it's a piece of information that they think that would be valuable to be able to hand out, just in general. So just if you can just go into the raise. Well, I don't know if it's I guess it's a raise hand, and you just do the thumbs up thing. So like that.
Sarah, why don't you put it into the chat so people have a chance to look at it, and we'll go with the people who have their hands raised, and then we'll figure out if we want to do a thumbs up on this FAQ.
Okay, give me a minute to get that into the chat there. So please go ahead and keep talking.
Okay, Alici.
Hi, everybody. This is Alici from Money's Palo Alto. We currently have a Youth Leadership Institute that's running through the end of the year. And so we're planning to do what we've done before in terms of business canvassing, so putting up posters and of course, like social media. I'm probably putting out some lawn signs reminding people about the recall election. Right now we have COVID vaccination canvassing. And so we're possibly just going to add some of the the recall election information in our regular food distribution. And so we'll add it to strategies we were using before for census and elections. And so we're going to continue that with our Youth Leadership Institute that's running right now.
That's great. Did you need, this is then a good question for you, if like the FAQs or any of the training materials are things that you guys can really use?
Yeah, we could use any materials that you have developed. We will definitely take those.
Great. Elsa, you have a question, comment?
It's just a brief comment, and this is from the SMC DFA perspective. The two things we're doing that I know of so far are putting the election information on our website. And then we have our first ever in-person meeting, which we're making quote unquote a party in early September, the first Wednesday in September, which is just before the election. And it would be great if we got from you just a stack of those wonderful small cards to be able to hand out to people in groups but what we have been encouraging is to have all of them be people who keep them in their passenger seat of their card to hand out to wherever they go, but also to email all of their networks, just simply as a GOTV effort. That's it.
Thank you.
So Sarah, I'm just curious, it sounds like the quarter sheets will yet again be a very popular handout since it's small. How many are you currently planning on printing? And just based on a couple of comments we're hearing here, whether you need to increase?
Well, I was hoping to come to this meeting to find out about, a general idea of some numbers, because we haven't hit print with the printer yet. And we'd like to be able to get the right amount and not have so many leftovers or to ever be under. We always try to go a little above rather than under. So if people can give me a sense if we're talking hundreds, thousands, or tens, it's in chat, that would be terrific.
Connie?
I was going to put it in chat, but yeah, I would like to see if we could possibly get some of those so that we could distribute them to the supermarkets like we've done in the past. And if you're going to have them in different languages, or at least I'm looking for Spanish.
Sorry, let's see. We certainly have things English, Spanish, English, Chinese. What other languages are you looking for?
I think mostly what we've done is the Latinx supermarket. So English, Spanish is fine.
Okay.
I mean, for me, but
yeah,
I'm sure there's other languages needed.
I mentioned before, we have, I know we already have in the works Tagalog and English, Tongan and English, so, we can make most of the ones that we work with here in the county. Connie, any sense of how many you can use?
I would probably be able to distribute 1,000. I mean, I'm with the League of Women Voters now. We have other distribution material, but if we could get some from the county, we could probably distribute about 1,000.
I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Are you guys coordinating with the North League, or is there anybody here from the North League for the other part of the county?
Margie's here from the North League.
Hi, Margie.
Yes.
Do you want quarter sheets too?
Yes, I do. I was just thinking about how many. I'm thinking a few hundred. We don't have the infrastructure as much as South County does for distribution, but I'm pretty sure we could figure out, I'm going to say 300 or 400, maybe 5 max, so we don't waste.
What about languages for you? Because I think you have a more of a Chinese population.
We do that and Spanish.
And Tongan.
And Tongan. But I haven't thought about, and we haven't gotten together to think about distribution. So let me give it a think, and then I will email Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you, Margie. And Sarah, you had a list of markets and stuff that you were going to. Those were for posters, right? Sarah Bryan?
Sorry about that. Either for the vote center Dropbox flyers or for the quarter sheets, if the stores are willing to put them into their grocery bags. And again, we have a list of about 65, 66 grocery stores throughout the county that are mostly in the places, I mean, East Palo Alto, the Redwood City, Menlo Park area, also, northern Daly City, South San Francisco, in order to hit some of the communities we're, trying to reach that aren't the high numbers of registered voters or aren't out voting. So if any of you, like Connie, I think you already have the contacts for Chavez, and that makes things go much smoother when you already know the folks there. Any other people, if you know the stores, if you know anyone, we'd appreciate your help in getting them inside these places.
Is there anybody on the phone who's focused on North County? Anywhere in North County?
Besides Legal and Voters?
Yeah, Petra, my distribution usually, because Chavez is also up north, and La Hacienda, it also includes some of North County. I mean, not north, but parts of it.
Well, I think you've done things to Daly City.
Right.
So that's pretty north.
Yeah.
Anybody else doing any work in Daly City or South San Francisco? I feel like we have a kind of a weak link.
And that's where we'll concentrate then, as far as, we have contacts there. And so the elections office can help in finding the places in Daly City when we don't have your contacts as part of the VEOAC here.
And we'll, Thrive can do a special outreach to our partners in North County as well.
This is Mike. I just have a name or an organization, but I don't attend many of their meetings. But it's an acronym called ACCESS. I can't tell you what it all stands for, ACCESS. And they meet, I believe, quarterly, but it could be more frequently. And they're Daly City centric in terms of their attendees and agendas and things like that.
Thank you. I'm not actually familiar with them.
Yeah, I don't have a name to give you to who to contact.
Does anybody know them?
I mean, I would.
Who was the organization?
Access?
ACCESS. It's, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with the New Beginnings Coalition. It's sort of like that, but it's localized in the Daly City, North County area.
Oh, not familiar with them. Is anybody on the phone who's or on the call who's part of the People's Alliance? Okay, I'll reach out to them directly because they do a lot of work in the North County. And I will check in with Faith in Action as well, because they also do a lot of work in North County.
Who should I contact if I get some access info? I can look through some of my older emails. That's Petra?
Yeah, it's me. Thank you.
Okay. I will get back to you if I find something in my emails.
Thank you. And we will try to look it up as well. Okay, who's ready for a trivia game?
All right.
Remember, you win glory. Okay, Kirsten, are you ready? Here we go. It's going to be honor system if you win, but we're going to be curious to see what people know.
Are you going to be reading anything, or is it?
Yes, actually, Mike, sorry for being ignorant here, but if I read it to you, are you able to, you're still not able to answer it though, right?
Well, I assume I would wait until other people have finished their answers to give mine, or?
Yeah, so I'll just read you all of the questions while everybody's filling it out.
Okay.
When was the last time California voted to recall its governor? These are multiple choice, 2007, 2003, 1999, or 2021. Okay. How many candidates were on the special statewide recall election ballot last time? 8, 461, 3, or 131?
Okay.
What was Arnold Schwarzenegger's ballot designation? Comedian, actor, businessman, entrepreneur, philanthropist? What's the official name the Secretary of State gave the recall election? California gubernatorial recall election, California recall, recall for the California gubernatorial election, or California administrative recall election?
That's for this one?
For this one, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
How much does it cost to get your name on the ballot? $500, 10% of the candidate's annual salary, $4,194.94, or a minimum of 7,000 valid signatures in lieu on the petition in lieu of filing fees, or 4% of the candidate's annual salary. Can ballot candidates file as anything other than their legal name if they pay extra, or there is no lenience in alterations of legal name on the ballot? Yes, as long as the election officials deem it a bona fide nickname, or if they ask nicely. And last question, to be able to qualify for the ballot, candidates must now provide at least 2 years of prior fundraising experience, a score of 29 or less on the psychopathy assessment, or 5 years of tax returns.
That's it?
That's it. Okay, 10 of 25 people, 11 of 25 people voted. So I can't tell, but when we go through the answers, we'll see. It's going to be the honor system. Okay,
Yeah.
Everyone done? Okay, let's see.
I'll be
So
here.
the last recall election was 2003 and
Yeah.
14 of you got it right. And I bet you Mike got it right too.
I'll tell you my answers if you want to just read the question.
Yes, what was your answer to that?
Yeah, that one was 2003. I got that.
Okay, number two, how many candidates were on the recall
130.
ballot last time?
131, whatever that number.
Yes, Mike is correct, and a whole bunch of other people weren't. What was Arnold Schwarzenegger's ballot designation?
I don't know, but I'll say actor, businessman.
It was actor businessman. What's the official name of the secretary that the Secretary of State gave the recall election?
I forget which choice it was. It's the, why don't you read them? I'll say yes. It's one of the earlier choices.
California gubernatorial recall election?
Yes, that's the one.
Okay, what is the correct answer? Sarah?
Which one are you on now? I was scrolling down your list.
Number 4.
The name of the
Oh.
election.
I think I've lost the list in front of me. So Michael, you're up.
It's California gubernatorial recall election.
Mhm.
Excellent. Okay, almost everybody got it, but that was one of the more controversial ones. How
Mhm.
much does it cost to get your name on the ballot?
That was the 7% or 4% of something.
It was
The last
$4,194.94 or 7,000 valid signatures.
No, there was another one where it was 7%. The last choice.
No, 4%.
It was 4%, but the answer was the other one, Yes.
Okay.
$4,000
I didn't know that one.
or 7,000 valid signatures. So this one we have evenly split. So Mike's the tie-breaking vote. Can ballot candidates file as anything other than their legal name?
No.
So the answer is yes. So Sarah, do you want to give us a backstory on this one?
Well, that is the lawsuit with is it a podcast that's called Meet Kevin? I know it's his Twitter handle. And he wants to have his ballot listing as Meet Kevin. He has a copyright to that name and uses it in all of his media, but the Secretary of State says that is not a bona fide nickname.
But if you have a bona fide nickname, it can be on the ballot because somebody else has their nickname on the ballot.
I know we've seen somebody, I think Rocky Fuentes in the past on presidential ballots. Rocky has a different first name, but Rocky worked because that's what he uses.
But it's not considered the legal name because it's not on a birth certificate or something.
Right, but it's a bona fide nickname, so they're allowed to have it on the ballot. And the last one, everybody got right. To be able to qualify for the ballot, you now need to provide 5 years of tax returns, which is provided for some interesting reading. Okay, how many people got them all right? Michael, you didn't get them all right?
No, I missed. Oh, sorry, that's Michael Louis.
I missed the bona fide nickname one. That's the only one. I should have gotten that right. Shame on me.
Yeah, I missed that one too, Michael. We're pretty stringent over here at elections, but yeah, no, and we should know that we see league names up there. I shouldn't say all the time, but it does pop up. But I got that one wrong too.
Sarah, you stumped. These are Sarah's questions mostly. You stumped your boss.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's not hard to do.
I don't know. I think you might owe her cookies or something. Excellent. Thank you guys for humoring us on that. We need to bring a little levity to this, to this very frustrating recall election.
But if I may quickly interject though, Petra, and you raised an interesting point that all it takes is 50% plus one to basically elect a new governor in this recall election process. So the importance of making sure that everyone participates in this election, so more people have a say on that first question, is really critical. because again, all it takes is just 50% of the actual vote, not the registered voters, not everybody in the state of California. It's people that actually cast a ballot. So the importance of making sure that we have a very robust voter education and outreach program, not only here in San Mateo County, but throughout the state, that people actively get involved in this process to answer that question is of paramount importance, or else you will have the tail wagging the dog here. So, our work is just incredibly important and essential to this process to make sure everybody is informed and that everybody gets out and exercises their constitutional responsibility to actually participate in the democratic and electoral process.
Jim, I can't agree with you more because I think that people are kind of being a little late. I think that the tone is people are like, whatever, who cares? I'm not going to bother to vote. And then we end up with a recall that people don't necessarily want and end up with a governor that got 12% of the vote. Like that could happen. So even though this is an annoying election, I do think that it's important to get people.
It's very real. It's very, very real. Very real. So it's really important that we do our job, and that's why we're allocating the resources that we have, and that the Secretary of State and the state legislature has done that also, because this is the democratic process. And one of the challenges that we have in elections is that people don't go out to vote against something. Generally they'll go out and vote for something, but they don't go out and vote against something per se. So, you're kind of fighting a tide. You say, well, why should I go out and vote? A lot of people, I don't care. I don't care what happens there. And that's why it's important that we educate on the importance of the process and of everybody actively participating in the electoral process.
And at some point, somebody should look at what a crazy system it is, where you're voting to recall, but then, it's just the majority, and we're going to have, last I heard, 41 candidates, but that keeps going up and down. But whatever it is, that's a lot of spreading of votes. So, the chances of any of those people getting a majority are pretty low. Anyway, that's my soapbox. Diane, do you want to give us some legislative updates?
Sure. There's not a lot to report. Basically, the legislation that I've been following is, AB 37, which is essentially taking what was done for the November 2020 elections in terms of, mailing ballots to all registered voters, codifying that for all counties, whether or not you're a VCA county. So that's just been kind of moving through. Again, it passed the Assembly back in June. It recently passed the committee. So it's in the state Senate. So it recently passed the Committee on Elections and Constitutional Amendments. And now it's gone back to the Appropriations Committee, since there is a cost component to this legislation, and there's a hearing set for August 16th. So it's just kind of going through the process. And then SB 503, which was adding some additional requirements to signature verification. Again, that one has just been moving through the process. So it passed the state Senate back in June, so it's now in the state Assembly. It's passed the Elections Committee, and also it has been referred to the Appropriations Committee. The one amendment that was added was adding coverage of local special elections in the signature verification process. I guess that wasn't in the original legislation. The last one, the new motor voter, AB 796. Again, that passed the state assembly back in May, and it's been amended a couple of times. It's passed the Elections and Constitutional Amendments Committee in the state Senate. It was referred back to transportation since it involves the DMV. It passed the Transportation Committee and is now been referred to appropriation. So again, all that legislation is just slowly going through the process. And that's really about it in terms of active amendments. The two that were regarding how the ballots were labeled, the SB 90 and AB 1416, basically nothing has happened since April on those two pieces of legislation. And that's it. Anybody have any questions?
Diane, do you want to jump right into National Voter Registration Day? Because I know People Power has plans.
Right. Well, actually, I was hoping Susan Feist, who's also on the call, as well as Bill. Susan, do you feel comfortable talking about where we are? Because they're both from San Francisco Peninsula People Power. Susan, are you still?
I'm here.
Okay. Do you feel comfortable just talking about where we are?
Well, there isn't, I mean, we had one meeting and we decided that we would break up the responsibilities and that I would really focus on the National Voter Registration Day. And that Bill was going to take care of trying to contact the schools and the other places that might need more help in getting registration. I'm going to do the libraries, and that's it pretty much. We only had one meeting and we're going to have another one soon, I'm assuming. That's really about it for now.
Right. The only other thing that again that I took on as an assignment was to look for places where maybe we could meet folks that are recently been on paroled or on probation, so that we can, or have fulfilled their parole, so that we can get the word out to them. So again, it's finding the right contacts to find out where can we best reach those people.
Right. And we have a lot of materials from last time that we can use, and we'll just tweak them to work on this year.
Right. And if any other organizations want to, do something on National Voter Registration Day, I know Legal Women Voters always participates in that. You can just go to the website, nationalvoterregistrationday.org, and they have a lot of materials. I'll put it in the chat as well. A lot of materials that you can use, and you can sign up your organization as being a participant. And in fact, one year in kind of the pre-COVID times, when we were up at Skyline, we actually, a couple of people showed up because Anna Eshu had sent out information about, hey, you should go, or maybe it was Jackie Spear, it was one of those folks, but said you should go and help volunteer. And then a couple of other people just saw it on the National Voter Registration, website, and just kind of showed up to help register voters. So let me go put that in the chat. And I think that's all we've got from People Power.
Anybody else doing anything special for National Voter Registration Day? It's a little bit hard coming right on the tail of the recall election.
We will look at something in the elections office. So let's get together with the supervisors, just kind of look at what we've done in the past. So I'm sure there will be information on our website, probably a press release, and there will be some information generated from the elections office, and we'll be working on that. And any information or suggestions you might have, let us know.
One more thing, I think we're mostly going to be working on just getting the word, it's not a big election. So we're going to talk about redistricting and just trying to get people thinking about voting and registration, that kind of.
Great. So next steps, because we always like to end with, we're going to do something productive. Thrive we will put up on our civic participation website links to all of the materials and everything as they come in. I will also send out an email with a follow-up email, maybe in a week or so, with the links to all of the stuff that we just talked about, whatever materials are already ready. And hopefully by then I'll have also picked some dates to do the trainings that work with Michael and Sarah and Diane, whoever wants to be a part of it. I will probably do, I think it makes sense to start probably second week in August and then do like one every week or something, but open to suggestions, and please feel free to come to all of those. You can always go to our website, and on the front page is all of our upcoming Thrive events, and then if you go under special initiatives, under the civic participation, you'll find all the voting information. So any closing thoughts?
Petra, do you have any material, or are you going to be developing any material for young people, first-time voters, first-time when you're first registering for the first time?
The
like
other thing is
high
National Voter Registration,
school
let's work on the schools. I want Mr. Church to go to the schools.
I know you've had this program in the past
See a lot.
where you do things with the high school kids and they get involved at the polling places and stuff like that. But is there any kind of information that we can pass out to students in the schools or the teachers could use?
I don't have anything that's targeted specifically at youth, but I wonder if Alicia does, or Sarah?
We do have some things from the Secretary of State's office that are specifically for youth. I mean, are you looking mostly at the age that can pre-register, 16, 17, or are you talking about, younger children?
No, it'd be like 16, 17, 18, that range. They're basically high school junior seniors. Mostly seniors. And when they're seniors, they're mostly studying civics in their senior year. So it's the whole election education kind of is in that curriculum in the schools with the high school.
Let me quickly interject here, Sally. We do have our student democracy program, and that program very successfully for poll workers, and that's a good networking infrastructure to get out into the schools. So let us here at Elections give a little bit of thought about that, because all of these are great ideas, and we have provided information before for other national voter registration days, and some good ideas here. So let us go back to the office here and figure out exactly how we want to approach that, and we'll let you know.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
And you saw in chat that League of Women Voters, Marnie, is offering information that they have. But it sounds like between Bill and Alicia and Marnie and the elections office, there should be a little conversation about student outreach.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Great. Well, congratulations to all of the winners of the trivia game, which I think was Sarah and Wolfman. I'm glad we stumped everybody. That makes me feel really good. We will get together again in 3 weeks, August 11th, and figure out what else is going on and how by then some of the vote centers will already be open. Right? When do they open?
August 16th.
August 16th. Never mind.
So
Okay.
not quite. Also, I did put that FAQ into the chat. Were people able to open it? It's a file. Let's see. I just saved it as a picture.
Yes, we were able to open it and save it in our own files. Thanks.
Yeah, we're able to print it with our, it's a part of our approved sample ballot voter information pamphlet. So, we can do something with it in color and make it look a little nicer for handing out if you have any use for it, English, Spanish, or Chinese.
Yes, please.
Any idea? Numbers?
That would be something good to send to the libraries as well, along with the bookmarks.
I'll ask them if they can use it. They're they have a lot of material that they put out that they have agreed always to the bookmarks.
At least on their bulletin boards, at least one copy, or by the checkout area.
Marnie has a question.
Hi. Yeah, quick question. Does anybody, including the elections office, have access to translation services? This has come up a bunch of times. And I think we'll be great on Spanish translation for our league. Thank you, Connie Guerrero, and some of our community organizers as well. but anyway, we might need help with Chinese, Tongan. So just throwing that out there.
Also, Sarah, we can research this a little bit more. The Secretary of State's office is actively involving their office in translations and providing actual assistance to counties in translation services. So let's explore that a little bit more, maybe report back so we know what the SOS will be offering. But they're really providing quite a bit of resources in the area of translation services. So we might want to see what they're doing, get more information there.
Marnie, just for clarifying, are you requesting translation services or interpretation services? So like translating materials or interpretation at like outreach events?
Great question. Unclear at this point. Probably mostly translation services for printed materials.
Okay.
And then tabling, I think tabling, so in-person, just discussion would be great. And I don't think we're doing at this point any on Zoom kind of that we would need live translation for. But yeah, so probably mostly printed materials.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
This is Mike. Just a quick question. I got dropped during the legislative update, but did you update AB 957, which is the, county officials being elected in 2022 and then again in 2024?
No, I did not cover that.
Bill 759.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
and
said it wrong. Yeah, 750.
759, it was in committee. The last discussion that I was privy to at the committee level was that it appears that an amendment was made to basically have that affect the offices of district attorney and sheriff. All other offices, the assessor in particular, would continue on the same schedule, which is the current June date. The 759 basically moves those elections for the district attorney and the sheriff, would move it to the presidential primary as opposed to the gubernatorial primary for the other office holders. And right now it's still sitting in committee, and it appears that the most recent amendment is for it to apply to primarily the offices of district attorney and sheriff.
So that would be up to each county to decide whether.
Well, then that's the other point to that. Yes, if they do pass that, then the counties would determine whether there will be a 6-year term or a 2-year term for the next election, which would be in June of 2022. And that would be determined at the local level, whether those offices would be extended for 2 years, or there would be an election and only for 2 years, then another election in 2024.
So even if the governor were to sign a bill that got through the whole legislature, doesn't necessarily mean our county's going to do anything.
Well, our county will do something. If it's state law, it will. In the absence of doing anything, there will be an election
in 2024. I understand.
There will be an election in 2022. In the absence of doing nothing, there's a scheduled election for June 2022 for those 3 offices. Those are the constitutional offices at the local level. So in the absence of any action by the county, should that law pass, in the absence of any action by the Board of Supervisors, there will be an election for a 2-year term in June of 2022. If the county does take an action, then those offices would be extended. There would be no election in June 2022, and there would be one in 2024.
So the default is we have 2 elections, 2022 and then again.
That's the default. That is correct. Assuming the bill passes, right? It's still in committee,
assuming it passes. I understand that. Okay, that clarifies it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Connie, did you have another question? You're muted.
sorry, my mouse is doing some weird stuff and I have 3 different screens. I was just gonna say one final thing is if anyone has like events where you have a crowd or for National Voter Registration Day, I'd like to see if we could reach out to the Univision or Telemundo, the Spanish speaking media or radio, because they usually do like to cover some of the events. I think they covered National Voter Registration Day last year. I'm not sure if we have any bandwidth with the League of Women Voters, but Diane, I think we've worked on that before with People Power. So just let me know. I think, it's important that we continue to work on, engaging with the Latino community, even if it's, a year where there's not much going on but a recall. But I know that would probably be big, and they would probably want to cover some of the events in San Mateo County.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Connie. Okay, thank you guys so much. We will be sending out lots of follow-up stuff and putting everything on the email follow-up as well. And it would be, it'll be fun to see you guys in 3 weeks. Well, thank you all. Thanks for playing our game.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
All
great
right,
week.
take care.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.